Welcome to Hatman Strikes Back Daily Boxing News. So according to reports, an agreement has been reached for Canelo Alvarez to fight Terence Crawford in September in Las Vegas. And yes, this will be a Riyadh season show. There have been much speculation that Riyadh season were not going to do any more shows outside of Saudi Arabia, but that appears not to be the case. Bear in mind, Ring Magazine are reporting this information, and of course they are owned by Turki Al-Sheikh, so I would have to assume that they've got accurate information on this. Now, maybe there are going to be far fewer Riyadh season shows outside of Saudi Arabia, but again, if this fight takes place in Vegas as described, then they're still going to be doing some shows. Of course, Ring Magazine themselves, Saudi-owned, are putting on multiple shows outside of Saudi Arabia, and that seems to be their main function, actually, is to put on Saudi shows outside of the kingdom. In any event, an agreement is in place. That doesn't necessarily mean the fight is signed. It can just mean that the terms have been agreed in principle, and the lawyers go away, iron out the fine details, and after a few weeks, you get ink on paper. However, before a Crawford fight, Canelo is expected to fight first in May, and the frontrunner seems to be William Skull, who's the IBF super middleweight champion, so it would be an undisputed fight. And boxing is full of upsets. William Skull would be a big underdog against Canelo, but stranger things have happened. But if Canelo comes through it and the Terence Crawford fight were to go ahead, Canelo, 34 years of age, 62 2-2, 39 wins by knockout. Terence Crawford, 37 years of age, 41-0 with 31 knockouts. Crawford will be going for greatness. Canelo would really just be going for a payday, and a massive one, I have to imagine, because he never seemed particularly keen on this fight because he didn't see what he had to gain by way of legacy, by way of credibility. He only has something to lose fighting somebody coming up several weight classes. Now, he's done it before, of course, when he fought Jermell Charlo. But Jermell Charlo was a physically bigger man than Terence Crawford, much bigger. So the optics of it wouldn't have been as bad for the casual fan. Now, the hardcore fan, I have to imagine, thinks that Terence Crawford has got a better chance of beating Canelo than Jermell Charlo ever did. But personally, if I'm going off recent form, I have to favor Canelo against Terence Crawford. Don't get it twisted. Madrimov does certain things that Canelo doesn't do. He's much lighter on his feet. He bounces in and out of range constantly and fences with that left hand. And I think that made Madrimov difficult for Terence Crawford to read. He wasn't used to that kind of style. And I think that's the reason he kept on getting clipped with the right hand. Canelo has a style that Crawford will be much more familiar with. Not just because I'm sure he's been watching Canelo for years and perhaps even anticipating that one day he would fight him, but also because I'm sure Terence Crawford will have come across his fair share of Mexican fighters over the years, not just in professional fights, but also in the gym sparring, even in the amateurs. So the things that Canelo does and the technique that he uses, I think will be more familiar to Crawford, and he'll be more accustomed to how to deal with that type of style and that type of technique from a technical and a tactical perspective. Perhaps Crawford's movement will give Canelo a lot of issues. And of course, Canelo is not exactly high volume. He's a low volume guy. He's the epitome of quality over quantity. But he's a man who's difficult to tag clean. He's got a great chin. He hits hard. He's got a fantastic boxing brain. He mixes it up head and body. He's got a very good jab, great physical strength. And let's be real, judges like him. He's been given the benefit of the doubt on several occasions through his career. We don't have to go into them here. I've gone into them on countless occasions in the past. So if a Canelo-Crawford fight was in any way close, I would fully expect the decision to go Canelo's way. Crawford would have to beat Canelo in absolutely dominant fashion, in my estimation, in order to get a decision. He'd have to beat him in such a one-sided way that it would be outrageous for the judges to award Canelo the decision. And I'm not convinced that he can do that. Maybe he'll prove me wrong, but at the age of 37, actually the older man by several years, hopping up multiple weight classes against a much bigger, much stronger fighter. When I say bigger, Crawford might actually be slightly taller, or maybe they're around the same height, but in terms of body mass, and in terms of the fighters they're used to being in the ring with, hitting and getting hit by, Canelo is from a completely different division. Crawford proved himself to be a very good puncher at 147 pounds and below. But against Madrimov, he did buzz him a few times in the fight, but his shots did not have the same effect on a fully fledged 154-pounder that they had on welterweights. And so, how much of an effect could we expect Crawford's punches to have on Canelo Alvarez, a fully fledged 168 who takes a great shot and who's difficult to tag clean? You know, Terence Crawford has never really been a pure runner. It's not really his mentality to just get on his bike and run around the ring for 12 rounds. He can do it, but again, he doesn't like to box that way. He'll move for a little bit, but then he likes to plant his feet in spots and try and hurt you. Would he really try to do that against Canelo? And if he did, would it be his undoing? Anyway, I'll analyze this fight in greater depth if and when it happens. But for now, I'll just say that I would expect Canelo to win. But if Crawford pulled it off, in my view, that would be a better victory than Mayweather's victory over Canelo. Oh yes, because presumably Canelo would not be agreeing to any catch weights or rehydration clauses here. He's firmly the A side against Terence Crawford. So Crawford, if he were to win, would have beaten a fully hydrated Canelo, a more experienced Canelo, a technically better Canelo than the one Mayweather beat. Let's see if he can do it. Let's see if the fight happens. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to like this video, share it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. I'll catch you on the next one. I'm out. Are you surrounded by mindless bots in human form who adhere to the norm and blindly conform? Who swallow all the mainstream BS and actually ridicule you for questioning things? Do you wish you had more free-thinking individuals in your life to network and converse with? Well, look no further. We're right here. Come and join the Brotherhood of Reason on Patreon. You'll gain access to my weekly topical content where we take deep dives on an endless variety of subjects, as well as my vast back catalogue of podcasts, videos, interviews, movie decodings, and my Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You'll also get to talk and network with myself and hundreds of other people in our members chat. You can enjoy all this via the Patreon app or on desktop and download all my podcasts in high-quality MP3. There's no contract, no commitment. You can cancel at any time, just like Netflix, but it's a hell of a lot cheaper. Just download the app from the Play Store or the App Store, or simply visit patreon.com on a web browser. Then head on over to my page and select the tier called the Brotherhood of Reason. All the links are in the description box below. And just a quick money-saving tip for Apple users. If you purchase your Patreon subscription on the desktop site or on Android, then you'll avoid the ridiculous 30% fee that Apple charges for purchases made on the iOS app. So if you're on iPhone or iPad, save yourself some money by buying your subscription on the actual Patreon website or on Android because it's a lot cheaper. Once you've made that initial purchase, you can then use the Patreon app on your iPhone or iPad thereafter to access and enjoy your content as normal.